Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Pixologic live stream. And we are going to go ahead and continue with our Mech today. I just want to make sure that you guys know that if you watch this on whatever service you're watching it on, I think we're streaming on 3 services right now. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. If you like what you see, leave a comment, let us know how we're doing. And also, if you have any questions, of course, you can ask during the stream. But also, if you have questions after, when you're watching this, when it's not live, you can leave your question in the comments, and somebody will get back to you from the Pixologic team. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got going on here. Let's make sure that you can see everything okay. So you guys see my ZBrush screen, and you can hear me okay. If you guys can chime in from each one of the different services, we can go ahead and get going here. Let's see. It looks like there's a couple of folks from YouTube saying hello, hi. Folks, how are you? And then also, it looks like there's some people saying hi from Twitch. Hello back. Just let me know if you guys can hear me okay. I don't see anybody from Facebook yet, but if from, okay, so good on Twitch, good on YouTube. I think Facebook is a little bit delayed, so I'll wait a couple of seconds, but if it's working on YouTube and Twitch, we're doing pretty good. Okay, so let's take a look at kind of what I've done so far. I did a little bit of work on the gun here on the guns. So I added this kind of thing on the bottom. I don't know if it's some sort of a detection thing, or if it's some sort of a maybe a wave type of device. But it looked like it needed something in that area to just kind of give it a little bit more of a visual interest. And also I put in this radar dish in the back, which folds backwards, and we'll go through that a little bit today because I'm going to be doing a little bit more work on the back of the Mech over here in this area today. And let's see. Yeah, I did just a tiny little bit of work on the legs, but we're going to continue to do work. I think this is, if I'm not mistaken, this might be our, let me see here which episode we are in. If you just excuse me for 1 second here while I fish that one out. I think we're 8. This is episode 8 of this season. So, but let me just make sure before we continue on. Where are you? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong place. All right. Where are you? Here we go. This one. No. Let's do it this way. Sorry, I just didn't have this window open before. I should have checked it before we jumped on. But if you guys have any questions or anything like that, let me know. I still haven't heard it from anybody from Facebook. So if anybody from Facebook is watching this, please chime in. Let me know if you can hear me okay. All right, so yeah, this is season 4, episode 8. That's correct. So we are starting with pretty much, looks like this season is going to go a little bit longer than 8. Usually I try to finish things up in 8 episodes, but I think we're going for a little bit more detail here than I initially wanted to go with, so which is a good thing. So we're probably going to go another few weeks on this Mech. All right, so yeah, I don't on YouTube. Yeah, I don't know. I just do the streaming part. That kind of stuff happens in the back. I don't know how to change it. All right, okay. Let's see. So again, everybody on YouTube and Twitch seems to be doing okay. If anybody from Facebook can chime in, that would be awesome. I would really appreciate it. And if you're not watching on Facebook, then you're fine. Okay, so here I did a couple other things too. I should mention. I did some scene cleanup, which you should do every once in a while. So I just kind of cleaned up the scene to just have these few groups over here, and also cleaned up all the different tools that were here and combined some of them into one. So for example here, this one shows the progression of the gun. We kind of started out like this, and it morphed to that, and then now it's in this iteration. Excuse me for just 1 second. Sorry about that. You get phone calls even when your phone is on mute. All right, here we go. Back to this. All right, so these are the 3 different guns. Yeah, that would be fun, right? If it wasn't a movie or something like that, that would be great, or a game. Yeah, the way that this thing works basically is, you know, it's some sort of, you know, near future weapon where it does feed it ammo from the side over here. So the ammo comes in on this side. And this part right over here, which will also kind of color things a little bit today if we have time. This part just kind of shoots back a little bit. So it has a little bit of recoil control. So this whole thing moves back. And then it shoots the projectile really fast. And then the whole goal here is that it shoots really, really fast. So if it's fighting other mechs like it, you know, there could be a pretty fierce battle and a lot of bullets flying by. So that's kind of its main purpose. So it's kind of more like a tank that has 2 cannons. And also, I mean, you know, these can turn upwards and it can fire them kind of at an angle if it needs to. So again, all these kinds of things you got to think about when you're doing concept design. It's not just creating something that looks cool, but something that's functional, especially if it's going to function in a game or a movie. And then if it does have some special things that it does, it just creates a more of a visual interest. For example, if you look at the X-Wing, if it didn't open up its foils, it would not be as exciting as some of the other kind of spaceships. Okay, so the other thing I started on is this Gatling gun, which I think I'll do a little bit from scratch today, just because I think it's kind of a cool thing to do. So let me turn that on. So something like this, I thought it would be cool to have one of these guys on the mech as well, one or multiple ones. And so I just kind of did one. I like it, but it looks a little bit more like stuff you see today. So I wanted to work on something that's a little bit more modern looking. So I'll do that today as well. So here, this is the first one. I'll just create another one in a bit. And I guess I'll start with that. So it's always good to have the guy there just kind of for reference. And I've got the pilot sitting here as well. I don't know why this one piece here is still showing. Oh, because my cursor's on there. No worries. Okay, so that's good. All right. So what I'm going to do here is just append to Polymesh 3D. So insert Polymesh 3D is just basically a little script or macro that I recorded just to make life easier for me. And so what it does is when I launch it, so when I launch the macro, which I've mapped to a button here on my menu, it just puts one of these Polymesh 3Ds on here and also loads my primitives brush. And again, just to mention this real quick before we go ahead and continue, I did update it. So if you go to my website, Kermaco.com, and you go to my Gumroad and kind of keep an eye on this because I'm going to be adding a few more things in the next few weeks or so. Notice here that I've got 2 insert mesh brushes. One of them is free, so this one's got 17 actually. I need to update these graphics. But this one has 17 different primitives, and then the Pro one started out at 33, now it has 36. Okay, so I added another piece. So when you go to purchase it, you can notice here that as you scroll down, I guess you have to add it to your thing first. But when you add it, you will see that there are 3 different versions. You want to get the latest version, which is this one right here, and I think it's version 1.2. right here. Yep, it's version 1.2. So, and the part I added, just if you are interested in knowing, is this part right here. So as you go through the different pieces here. So notice here, as I'm going through the different items in the primitives in the brush, it's updating them for me on the scene as long as I'm in the move mode. And so I had this T-shape, which I updated. So I've done a little bit of editing to this and added polygroups, which I think would make it more helpful. And then I had this kind of cross shape. And last but not least, this one is the one I added, which is kind of a three-way cylinder connecting in a kind of a ball type object. So again, these are all very low poly. They're good topology, and they're polygrouped, so you can do a whole bunch of things from them. And of course, there's the other pieces as well. So if you're interested in getting this one, it is for a nominal fee, but I do have a free one as well that I think has most of the important ones in here, and if that's all you're going to need, then might as well just get that one. Again, these are in my Gumroad, which are gumroad.com/Kermaco, or you can always go to kermaco.com, which is my website, and then just click on Gumroad to go to it. All right, so with that out of the way, let's go back and see here. I need a cylindrical object, so I should be in this group right here. I think I inadvertently inserted that Polymesh 3D in the wrong group, but that's easily fixable. Let's make our visible count here to 12. And let's move this down to the Gatling gun. And here, I'm going to hide everything else. In here, I might use some of these parts, but most probably I'm going to do everything from scratch. Right. So here's our Polymesh 3D, and I want to start with one of these cylinders, and I don't really need to have a hole in it, but might as well. I'm going to start with this one right here. Maybe one that's less. So notice here I'm going to start with the most minimal one possible, and I'm doing that because I don't want to have a lot of polygons to deal with. And notice here that if I press D or go to dynamic subdivision, you'll notice that this is actually a pretty good cylinder, and if I want to actually have it be a little bit more detailed, I can go in here and switch the smooth subdiv to 3. It's a 2 is the default. 3 is okay. And if I want to even go further, I can I can go and change this to a 4, and that basically creates a pretty smooth looking barrel. So that's what I want to start with. And again, I've got my pilots here, these 3 floating guys. Maybe I'll hide them so they don't take up screen space here. We'll need them later, but I just want the guy standing up below, which is kind of inside the barrel right now. So what we want to do then is just scale this down to, and again, looking at the guy here, to something that's going to be realistic for a Gatling gun. And let's just make this longer as well. This is way too thick, maybe thinner, and smaller like this. And again, it's always good to bring it over to where the guy is. So like, you know, would this be too big? It still is too big, so maybe about there. That's okay, maybe like about there. That's good. Okay. All right, so now that we've got the scale kind of matching the guy here, let's go ahead and look at the size this way. And then let's look at the barrel. Is this good, or do we want the inside part to be a little bit, you know, more, thinner? So let's do that as well. So since it's a primitive here, I'm going to turn perspective off, and the guy doesn't matter. He's just there in the background. And what I'm going to do here is go to select or mask, sorry, lasso, and I am going to, let's see, my brush size is huge, all right? And then just kind of select the inside part like this, and then invert that selection. And now what I can do is by holding, so first what I want to do is just resize it this way, but notice it's resizing the whole thing, which I don't want. And if I hold Alt down, then it basically makes it thicker or thinner. Okay, so that's one thing I can do. But here what I want to do is the mask cleared. The mask got cleared. Remask it, easy enough to do. Go, and then invert that mask. All right, and then we're just going to change the kind of the thickness of the barrel. So again, if I hold Alt down, I can choose the thickness of that barrel, and maybe I want it to be something like this. Okay, that's good. Again, I'm manipulating very few points here, but getting a very detailed shape. That's because I'm working in very low poly, but using dynamic subdiv. All right, so that's kind of good. Maybe make it a little bit shorter here to about there. That's kind of the length of the barrel. Okay, so now that I've got this, I don't really need the guy anymore, so I'm just going to hide him. And I'm going to move this to the center of the world, like so. So there it is. Okay, and just to kind of make sure, if I turn the, do I have the floor on? I do, but the floor is going to be at the bottom here, which is fine. I don't really need the floor either, so I can just hide that. Oops. All right, so here is my barrel at the center of the world, and now what I want to do is I want to create a bunch of these barrels. Let me see, are there any questions? Okay, so no questions so far. If anybody does have questions, a good time to ask would be any time. Just type it in, and every once in a while I'll stop and answer them for you. Okay, so here we go. And then, you know, I'm going to have a bunch of these, and the best way to do that is to use array mesh. Let's go ahead and use array mesh here, and what we're going to do is we're going to repeat this. I don't know, let's try and start with 3. Let's see what that looks like. So we're just going to have 3 barrels, and then what we're going to do is we're going to rotate them around, looks like Z, and let's do a 360 rotation. Now they're on top of each other because I haven't moved them, and if I do move them, it's just not going to, I mean, they're not going to really make that big of a difference. Z amount, not offset, I want this to be 0. I want to rotate it 360 degrees, like this. Okay, so you can see here they're on top of each other. It's not really making that big of a difference, and if I move this, it's going to move the whole thing together. So what I need to do here is just lock the position, then move it, and when I do, then I get the 3 barrels like that. And let's turn perspective on because it looks better with perspective. So there's 3. And then I can go in and say, okay, well, what does it look like with more barrels? So I can just kind of iterate the number of barrels. Notice here that once I have more, I have to move them further apart. Rajesh is asking how many years I'm working with ZBrush. Since 2005, so a while. All right, and okay, so that's kind of looking, this is what it looks like with 6. Usually 6 is how many they have, and that's a good number. I think this barrel is looking very, very thick, so I'm going to change that again. And notice here that I can do that, and it will reflect all the other ones as well. So here I'm just going to invert the mask, and then just go and do the same thing again. Turn this at a slight angle. Let's put the gizmo in the middle of this thing. It'll be easier, and then as I move this, notice it's going to move it in and out, but if I hold control down, then I'm just basically adjusting the size. And notice it's adjusting the size of all of them. So I think this looks better if I'm doing a bunch. That's good. Or I can make the whole thing maybe like that. And then I can resize the whole barrel to be thinner, like this. Okay, so now I've got 6. Let's see what it looks like with 8. Why not have a Gatling gun with 8 barrels? Okay, that looks like it's a lot of them, but I can also move these closer, like that. Okay, that's looking too ancient, so let's go with something different. Let's see what 5 looks like. Let's try some odd numbers. 5 looks good. Let's see what 3 looks like again. And let's try 2, about 4, 5, how about 7? Oh, 7 is interesting. Kind of gives me a little bit of asymmetry. And let's see if I can move these even closer to each other like this. 7 is good, but it leaves a big kind of area in the middle here that I don't want. So I'm going to go back down to, let's go back down to 5 and move these in. 5 looks like it could be interesting as well. So let's do a Gatling gun with 5 barrels. All right, so now that we've got this, one of the things that happens with Gatling guns is that the barrels point inwards a little bit, and I can do that again very easily just by kind of doing a little bit of rotation here. I kind of don't like it from the side at 5, so this is kind of the bane of being a designer, is you can iterate, you can go back and forth between ideas. I think I'm going to stick with 6, and then just do a slight rotation. Just ever so slight rotation, just to kind of have them be pointing downwards. So they basically are shooting towards the center of where the center of this object is. All right, so that's good. Now we can move it in even closer to about there. I want a little bit of room between them, but not too much. And I can still, modify the length of it if I want it to be longer or shorter. And I can do 3 tri-barrels. Well, you can do that. Interestingly enough, let's do that. And I think one of the things I really like about ZBrush is this ability to just kind of do what if it was, how long would it take for me to paint something like that versus doing it this way? So I'm going to do 3 here. I'm going to get them up close to each other, right? So now I basically have this object, which is 3 barrels, right? And then what we can do is we can just accept this array mesh. What I'm going to do here is just duplicate this so we can go back to it if we need to. So let me just do that. Here, duplicate, where are you? Okay, so we have that duplicate, and what I'm going to do with the array mesh now is just accept it. So now basically I've got one object that's 3. Okay, and then if I want to array mesh this again, I can just do this like that. And by the way, there is a way to append a new array mesh to it. So if I didn't want to actually create an object from this, I can do that as well. But I'm just going to do it this way for now. All right, so now, and then I want to move this to the center of these 3. So the center is really kind of misrepresented here because the center of it should be here, right? But when I go to the center of the object, it actually goes to the center of the bounding box, and I'm going to stick with that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is have 3 of these. Right, and so I'm going to do the exact same thing here. I'm going to move this to the home area. See here. Let me just turn this off for a minute, and move this to the center. Oh, it's picking up the other one. That's what's showing up. Okay, so we don't need to see the other one, so we just need to see this one. All right, so there's 3, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and turn this on, bump the number up to another 3, like that, and then go to rotate, Z amount 360, same thing. Now that's not going to give me exactly what I want until I turn this or hit lock position on, and now that I did, I can just move these out, and now I can see that I've got 3 by 3, and that kind of looks interesting. And then I'd need to rotate these in a bit, not scale, but rotate like that. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Let's see if we can move these closer, if that's going to create, it's kind of creating a really weird shape. And I can rotate these to see if like something else is kind of more interesting. Let's try and go by locked angles here. See if any one of these type of iterations is better than the other. All right, so now somebody's asking a question, what if I put 2 barrels and array by 3? Yeah, I could do that as well. So we can, we can try all those different iterations. Sometimes when I have time on a project, I try to, play and see if I can find different different types of possibilities that work better. So this 3x3 is okay, but I don't think I'm going to go with it. So I'm just going to delete that for now and go back to here, and we'll try this other method that you had of 2x3, which I kind of think I know what you're trying to do, and I think that might be interesting. Why not? Let's go ahead and try it. So this one is let's change this to a repeat of 2. And let's move these, turn perspective off for now, and move these closer like this. Okay, so here they are. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to use the other method. So I'm going to say insert new. So I've inserted a new array mesh now. And what we're going to do is we're going to repeat that 3 times. And we're going to also do the rotation around Z for 360. Okay, so now we've got this kind of thing going on. Okay, why isn't the first one showing up? Transform stage 2. Okay, I think I changed the first one. Okay, the first one I want it to repeat twice. Okay, and 360. Okay, so this is the first one, like that. And then we'll go to stage 2, and stage 2 is going to be 3. And I'm going to move it out this way. So I don't know if it's, I think it's going over. Yeah, I should reset the second stage, reset it. Okay, so there's the 2. All right, and where's stage 1? It's easier just to say make mesh. Let's delete the second stage here. All right. So we have repeat of 2, and we have where's the other one? Z mount 360. Right. And I don't really need to have this be rotated. I actually can have it be an array in kind of with offset. But this is good, and let's make mesh out of this. Okay, so now let's move to the center, move that to the center of the world, lock position, array mesh on, lock position, and let's go with a repeat of 3, and let's go with an angle of 360 again. All right, so this is what we wanted, and now we've got this. And this kind of looks interesting as well, right? So I like the way this looks. It kind of looks modern enough to be a little bit different, so maybe this will be what we go with. So let's see, who suggested that? Let's see if you would do it. Yeah, Honey mentioned that. So Honey, you're right. That is kind of a cool look, so we'll go with that. And I don't know if you meant it this way or if you meant it the other way, where the barrels are side to side, like a double barrel shotgun, but 3 of them. All right, so this kind of looks interesting. Let's see if this can work for us. I think I'm going to go with something simpler. I mean, this is kind of cool, but it's a little bit too much. And I don't know if it's feasible. I mean, it just looks like more of something. Let's see. Turn polyframe off. And let's make the barrels longer, see if that makes it any more feasible. Yeah, no, I think I'm going to go with just the original idea that I had, which was... but I like the idea of 3 barrels now, so I think I'm going to go with 3 barrels here. Let's go back all the way to where I had this, and then we're just going to change the number to 3. Okay, and just move these together closer like this, and just tilt them down just a tiny, oops, not scale, but tilt. It's really difficult to get a slight angle here. I might have to see if I can, what am I rotating on? I'm rotating around Z. So I can, if you want to get more precise rotation angles, you have to go to, where is it? Deformation. And you want to rotate, and we're rotating around X. See, now we have a little bit better control where we can just type in the number. So that's actually way too much. We're going in the positive direction, so let's do just a positive 1. It's way too much. Let's do positive 0.5. That's still too much. Let's do positive 0.2. So this way I can very precisely put in the number if it's hard to just 0.2. All right, here we go. I've got that 0.2. It's just a slight kind of, you can see it's a little bit more tapered on this end, and that's kind of what I want. So I'm done with the barrel here, but I'm not generating a mesh out of it because I still want to do a little bit of work on this. How much do I consider the function while I'm designing? 100% all the time. That's kind of, you know, that's one of the things that I do to a fault almost, is that I always want something to function. I mean, I want it to look cool for sure, but I also want it to be a functional thing. I don't want it to be, you know, just a cool looking thing. Like, you know, I don't understand how people can carry huge swords in games. I mean, it's aesthetically maybe pleasing, but you know, it's not really feasible. And our suspension of disbelief, it throws it out really fast. So I'm going to maybe try a little bit of a harsher angle here, like that maybe, and make this longer. Yeah, you see here the number below, it's jumping a lot. I can hold shift down and that will lock it, but it's not enough. And so I think, again, I have to go in and do it in the deformation. All right, so I think I had 0.2. I'm going to try 0.1 this time. So rotate around X, and I'm just going to go to 0.1, and that's just enough of a little bit of an incline, which sells the idea of it, but it's not too much. I mean, your eyes kind of catch it, but it's not, you know, it doesn't hit you over the head. Okay. Song track, yo. I don't know what you're trying to say. Can you repeat your question, please? Okay, so now what we're going to do is just work a little bit on details here. So again, I've got really little geometry. I'm going to go to ZModeler, and let's go ahead and insert an edge here. So notice that again, if I had Shift D, I'm working on pretty low level geometry. So I'm just going to insert an edge loop over here like this. And I'm going to insert another one over this way like that. Now I've got a crease over here, which basically is giving me that sharp edge when I hit D, right? So I want to do the same thing, is crease this edge loop, so crease and edge loop complete. So I'm going to crease this one, and I'm going to crease this one, and I'm going to delete this edge loop. Oops. In the middle, and now when I press D, I get this little bit of a tapered edge. Again, very few, very little geometry. Now let me go to the regular mask here. Just mask this part, invert the mask, and move these out just a little bit. Okay, so I know that they are moving out in the other ones as well, and that's kind of what I wanted. And just get a little bit of a taper here on the edge. And then also what I'm going to do is add a little bit another detail here. So I'm going to do this and this. Like so, and I'm going to QMesh polyloop, and let's get the mask off and just, ooh, too much. Right, I just want to QMesh this polyloop a little bit out like that. All right, and let's crease these edges as well. So I can actually bevel them too. Let's do bevel instead. Can do bevel there, do another bevel here, and what's cool is I can see the polyframe over here, but I can also see what they look like without the polyframe, so I can just turn to the side, and that's okay. I think it's a little bit too much, so I'm going to push it back down till I get something more along the lines of what I want, and that looks okay to me. Let's go back to it. That's working more or less. Just trying to get to where, oh, what happened? Oh, I inadvertently did this, no worries. Went back in time, and I think we want that to be a little bit more. Don't want to go in too much because then it basically tries to Q-mesh it with some other parts. All right, that's good enough. And then now let's add some more edge loops over here. Insert. Let's do nothing for this, and for edge we're going to insert again. So is it on inset by accident? Since I'm not in the center of the object, it's kind of not picking up the edge as easily, but it's easy enough to do. Here we go, insert, and let's add an edge loop. Like so. So again, notice that even though that edge loop looks like it's added pretty close, it's not. And that way we know all we're going to do is be inserting an edge, and hopefully we're inserting it this way. It's a lot easier when it's not, okay, subdivided. So here's one like that, and then here's another one like this. And what I want to do is Q-mesh this out. But since I'm going to crease it, I'm going to crease this. And crease this. And then when I do the Q-mesh, it'll have creased edges too. Right? So I kind of have a little bit more of a barrel edge over here like that. And maybe what I want to do here is go ahead and create kind of a hole in here. So I'm going to insert an edge loop, but I want it to be in the center. So insert, it's multiple edge loops, but one goes in the center like that. And so now, well, actually, it might be easier to do it this way. I'm going to do an inset like so. That's good, but I want to do it all the way around, so I'm going to turn on symmetry, radial, and let's go for a count of, we've got 8 edges, so let's go for a count of 4. And in the Z direction. Whoa, not X. Okay, so now when I do the inset here, let's see if this works. So it's trying to, is it trying to do it with the whole object? No. So let me, for a minute here, I can turn array mesh off. And yeah, let's do, that's why it's, I need it to be local symmetry. No, come on. All right. I don't know why it's going all the way out to here. I think it's going, doesn't know about the array mesh. Oh, probably because of that lock position. No worries, we can just do it manually. Radial count is 4. See if this works. No, it's still going out. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do it manually. So with no symmetry on, symmetry off. And I'm just going to do one at a time. So let's say I do, actually, I have another idea. So I'm going to do this. Polygroup, polyloop, and just do that. And then I'm going to inset polygroup all and do this one. I'm going to also do inset each poly and do this. And let's do it one more time. And then what I'm going to do is Q-mesh this inwards. Oops. Q-mesh single poly. And just keep doing this all the way around. Turn the mesh off for a minute. So that basically creates like something like this. And turning array mesh back on, that's kind of a cool thing. I don't want it to be that long, so I can modify it to be more circular. So all I need to do is just mask this part and move this in. There we go. All right, so I basically have that shape going on now, and I don't think I want to do anything else to these barrels. Maybe do one of these things. They always make it look cooler. All right, let's see. Yeah, I think, well, it is, the Z position is in the middle. That's not the issue, but I think the issue is that it's basing it on where I did that lock position. So that's why it's doing it that way. I mean, you know, initially what I could have done is I could have just made this barrel before and then done the array mesh. But, you know, it's sometimes you're going to encounter things that are not going to work for you, so you have to come up with ways of going around them, which I did here. Now, one other thing I want to try at this point is to see if I can get, and I'm going to drop this down, and I'm going to try something else again, just to see if I get a better result. I'm just going to add another edge loop in the middle of all of these to see if when I'm done, if it'll give me a better, turn array mesh off, give me a better looking thing or not. Again, it's that iterative design process, which basically, yeah, this gives me this kind of a barrel shape, but I don't think I like it, so I'm going to go back to the way it was before. All right, so that's that, and then the last thing I'm going to add here is I'm going to make a little bit of a ridge in the middle of the barrel, so that kind of adds visual interest as well. So let me just add a edge loop here in the middle of that. That's fine, and then one in the middle of this. While I'm doing it, might as well add one here too, just to divide it up. And then what I want to do here is polygroup, polyloop, go around this way. And I want to do the same thing here. All right, and now I just want to QMesh. Polygroup all, and just pop this out a little bit like so. Okay, that's kind of nice. And then the last thing I want to do here is move this line closer to there, and now I'm getting this type of a look, and that's looking pretty cool, and I think I want to keep that. All right, so I think that's all I want to do with the barrels. One other thing I want to try here, and again, I'm always, whenever I look at what I'm working on, I'm always evaluating other things I can do. That looks okay. And then one other idea that I had was to insert an edge loop here and to QMesh just this poly loop. Yeah, that looks good. And let's do it on the other side too. And here I'm just going to insert a single edge loop this way, and then I want a poly group. This is going to be, this is pretty close to it. So here, if I hit Shift D, you'll notice that I barely can see that edge loop. Oops, I want to keep that. But here, what I want to do is drop out, insert that edge loop this way, do that QMesh, and get something like this. That's kind of cool, but I think maybe I'll just keep it this way for now. All right. So that's basically that. And so now I've got the barrels. Now let's go ahead and start putting some stuff around it. So now that I'm happy with this, I notice here that there's a little bit of intersection between, and it's giving me a nice kind of profile from the front, the little design choice that I made. So that's kind of neat. I'm still thinking this is a little bit too harsh, so I'm going to slide this out a bit. This corner is a little bit too harsh. Slide poly loop, edge loop complete. Okay, so we're just going to do this and do this here, just so I get that going on. All right, so that's good. And then last but not least, I need to start kind of thinking of things that go around this. So I think I'm happy with this array mesh. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a new one of these. So create a new one, duplicate. And so the old one has all the undo steps. This one does not. And also the old one is not an array mesh. Is it still an array mesh? This one will not be. Once I go ahead and say make mesh, I have it now. And this is going to be the barrels of the Gatling gun. So next thing I want to do here is go ahead and again use my macro, insert polymesh 3D. There's that. And let's go here. It's huge, of course. And let's make this smaller. Am I on solo? I am on solo. All right, so now I'm not on solo. I guess it wasn't that huge. And then just kind of bring that to wherever we want. And then I'm going to go ahead and add another one of these guys this way. And this is going to be kind of something that goes around this Gatling gun over here and just kind of combines the barrels together in the construction of it. Okay, so again, just go to dynamic subdiv and see. It's going to go outside the barrels, so the outside part is okay. And now to fix the inside part, I'll just go ahead and again, let's choose mask lasso, mask the inside, invert that mask, and let's bring the barrels back. And what I want to do now is again just change that inside circumference to maybe something like this. So this is really not looking good for me, like this big ring here. And also since it's 3 barrels, it looks like there's a lot of empty space. So this is not going to work. Oh man, okay. And also I missed I think in my selection here, did I miss something? Yeah, I think the masking was not done completely. But coming to my initial point, this is really not going to work. This kind of circular thing is not going to work at the tip. It might work at the base, and we'll just move it to there and leave it there for now. But I need something that basically will hold these 3 barrels. So there are different ways of doing this. I'm going to go to my handy dandy light box here, and I know I've got some, let's go to QMesh over here. I'm sorry, Spotlight. And I think it's this. Is it this one? Nope. Of course, it's always going to be the last one I pick. I think it's the first one. It's this one right here. Nope, it's not that one either. Maybe this one. All right, so let's it's not this one. I think, is it this one? No. It's going to be the first one I chose. Yeah, it is this one. All right, so here I'm just going to make this smaller. And you can see here I've got like 3 barrel type of shapes already made. Right, and this one looks good. So let's pick this one right here. Move it over and just resize it. Size doesn't really make a difference here because I can resize it after the fact, but I'm just going to move it to the center here of this object and then just move this until I get what I want. I do want it to quick save, but I will do it in a minute. So somebody remind me. But right now I'm kind of in the zone, so I don't want to do it just yet. Okay, let me just make sure this is selected. Move it in the center, like so. And move the barrels up in size just to see them bigger. And then bring this back up. Select this, center it, like so, and then resize it. Rotate, resize. So it fits the barrels, right? And it looks like it almost does, and it somehow does and somehow doesn't. If it's at the center of this, but that's fine because I think it'll look okay. And then I can also, of course, move it after I make it. So I'm just going to make it just a tiny bit bigger, like so. That looks good. So I'm just going to snapshot 3D this and put all this stuff away. So now I've got this shape right here. And if I move it up a bit, it actually works really well. I'm going to turn polyframe off. And again, this thing is, you know, I can just move this over to the front. And make it smaller like this. And that looks pretty good for where it is. But I don't really like these kind of sharp edges that it's got, so I need to fix those. Now, if I go in and press D, the shape will kind of, you know, be okay. But I've got a trick to make this better geometry. So what I'm going to do here is just go in. I think I did this in one of the things before. And just select that one face, delete the other ones. And then I'm just going to solo that so I can see it. And you can see here that there's a bunch of triangles on the edges here and all that kind of stuff. So there are different ways to do this. The first thing I'd like to do is just do a group loops. So geometry, edge loop. And what I want to do is a group loops with just one. And that basically adds an edge loop around this. I think you can barely see it here. Let's do 2. Right, so now you can see that it basically adds kind of a quad border to it. And that's good. Also, this is really dense geometry, which is fine, I guess. But if we want it to be less, I can go ahead and Dynamesh this as well. But I can Dynamesh it by keeping the groups. So let's turn polyframe back up. And let's go ahead and Dynamesh this. I'm sorry, not Dynamesh, but ZBrush it. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep the groups. And we are going to go for half the number of polygons, and let's see what that gives us. So here it is going. All right, so that is looking pretty horrible. So that did not really work well for us. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to let's see, what were my settings for ZBrush? So I had half, I had adaptive, I had keep groups, I had smooth groups on. That's what was the issue. So I'm just going to turn smooth groups off for now and run it again. Good time to have a cup of tea. Right, so it's still giving me something very, very strange. And I'm wondering if it's because I inadvertently did not delete the hidden parts. Okay, all right, so it is deleted. So I don't know why it's freaking out. Okay, so in this case, I will try a couple other things. And the first one is just go in here and adding a really high resolution, like let's say 1024 to this. And let's leave blur on. And let's Dynamesh this. Oh, well, that's not going to work. Okay, so Dynamesh isn't going to work. I forget the Dynamesh doesn't work well with thin objects. So I can try the other thing. I can try tessimating it. So let's try doing that. Right, and that's coming out even worse. So that's not going to work either. All right, so we'll use our old other method here of, and I don't know if this is because of the size that it is. Maybe it is. So I'm going to do something real quick here. We can always move it back into position. I'm going to unify this thing. And I'm going to try the Dynamesh one more time, or ZBrush, sorry, one more time. So ZBrusher, keep groups. I don't want to detect edges and half, and let's leave adaptive on for a minute here and see how it does. All right, so this is kind of closer to what we want. So we've got good geometry, quads, and it doesn't have an issue. Another thing I can also do here is let's turn symmetry on around X. And let me go ahead and ZBrush it one more time. All right, so I'm getting the same shape with a lot less geometry, with really good topology here. And then one other thing I want to do, it's kind of already done for me, but I'll do it anyway. I'll go here and add a group loops of 2. Which is adding a couple of edge loops around here. Let's try 3. Okay, so that's pretty good. So I'm going to have a really nice edge here. And then I need to bevel that edge, so I really don't need that shored up edge. So I'm going to go in here and delete these edge loops. I'm going to delete that one, and I'm going to delete this one. Oops, not that one, but okay, that's okay, and delete this one as well. So I just want to create a bit of a lip here because I want to do a bevel. I can do one more probably, right? And I'm going to do the same thing on the inside, which it doesn't really matter. It doesn't. You're not going to see it as much, but might as well. All right, and this one, and this one. Okay, and I could polygroup this poly loop as well, just for kicks. Let's make sure these 2 outer ones are the same polygroup. And I think I can get rid of one more edge loop here. All right, so now I've got this shape. It's a pretty good topology. I can probably go down one more subdivision level. Let's see if I can do that. I'm happy with what I have here, which is a lot less dense and better topology than what I had before. But I can probably go down even more but I want to keep the groups, ZBrush, half. Let's see what that gives us. All right, that's actually not bad. One more. Wow, I'm getting to really kind of lower polygons here, but I still have that same shape. And I think this is good enough. I could probably go one more, but no, that's good too. All right, so this is going to be it. Now that I have this, I can just go ahead and Q-mesh. Oops. Turn symmetry off and Q-mesh this whole thing. Or another thing I can do, which is probably better, is go to dynamic subdiv. So notice that didn't really do much to it because the topology is so good. It basically just took that form. And here I will add some thickness to it. Let's go something like that. Okay, that's maybe a bit too much. Let's go to about maybe something like that. All right, so we've got this, and that's good. I don't want the smooth subdivisions. I just want thickness, and that's kind of exactly what I want. All right, so now what I want to do is I'm just going to accept this, apply this. So now I've got this as geometry, and now I just need to add a couple of edge loops here. One this way and one this way. And the reason why I'm doing that is because now I can control that bevel. So here I'm just going to go in. I can either delete this edge loop or I can bevel. Let's just try to see what bevel looks like. Edge loop complete. That's good. And let's do the same over here. And let's add an edge loop on the inside here. Forgot to do that. 1 and 2. All right. One of the things that's kind of really interesting to me, I kind of will diverge from this conversation, and you know, one of the questions I get all the time is how long have you used ZBrush? And that's the wrong question to ask. Because, you know, it doesn't really matter how long I've used ZBrush. Oops, I won't do that. But the important thing is not just ZBrush. Knowing how to use ZBrush is really not going to do that much for you. What is going to do a lot for you is, of course, you'd still have to learn ZBrush, yes, but you also need to, you know, kind of brush up on a lot of other skills as well. So, all right, so now I've got this pretty smooth looking object here that doesn't have those sharp edges. And let's go to smooth subdiv of 1 for now. And, you know, it's going to be pretty small, so that's perfect. So now I'll just turn solo off. But this thing's just gigantic compared to the barrels. So I need to resize it back to wherever the barrels are. So let's see, where are the barrels? There they are. So this thing is really huge. Just need to be resized like so to go there. So there's one part of it, like that. And of course I can always make it wider. And maybe not as wide. Maybe let's bring it up a bit closer to this. And just position it so it's centered. All right, that's looking good. So now I can just duplicate that. Let's put one over here. And then duplicate it again. But this time I need to make it larger. And then move this backwards as well to here. And so now I've got these kind of connectors for the barrel. And this is looking a little bit more futuristic than what I had before. So I think I'm liking this a lot more. And then let's see. Sina, hello, how's it going? I'm doing good, thanks. About background, is there a custom panorama picture inside ZBrush like Pixologic panorama? Yeah, so you want like in the background of of your image. So yeah, you can. Let's bring everybody back here. Let's bring the mech back, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's bring the people. So I'm going to bring the people back in just to see. Am I on solo? Nope. Where are the people? There he is. So this is what the gun is looking like. I guess it's facing backwards. Doesn't matter. Actually, while I'm at it, might as well change. Oops. Invert that. I'm going to change the orientation so it's in the right orientation. So it's going this way. All right, and yeah, so that's that. So the Gatling gun size looks good. Like from a human perspective, I think that kind of looks feasible. Of course, if I want it to be a little bit bigger, I can do that as well. Same process here. Turn on everything and make it a bit bigger. Maybe a little bit bigger is better for this guy. And there it is. All right. So now let's bring up the people, and we don't need the centered gun right now. Bullet feed, missile. We don't need the missile either. All right, so there's the entire mech, and suppose I want to put this in a panorama image. So there are different ways of doing it. Of course, you can always generate it with a mask and then do it in Photoshop or something like that, put a background behind it. But if you just want to put a background around the object, the way to do it is first let's go ahead and load what background we want. So here, I think under texture, there are some that come with ZBrush. Let's wait a minute till it refreshes. Good time for tea. And then here's your panoramas. And in here, pick one that you like. These take a little bit of time to load because I think they're HDRs, so they load. Okay, so let's say we want to put this, I don't know, in... how about this one? Yeah, I don't know where these are, but let's say this one. This one looks interesting. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and double click on it, which adds this to my texture here. And then let's get rid of spotlight here. And then if you go to, I think it's under, is it under render? Render, and it's either render or light. Render properties, no. Where are you? Background, I think it's under, maybe it's under light. Yeah, light background. And what you want to do is you want to go to texture. You want to choose that texture that you had. And now you basically have that as a background, okay? And if you want to rotate it around, right? So you basically go and change the longitude. So that basically is rotating that around your object, right? And then if you want to rotate it this way, you can as well, right? So, I mean, here you can do this. You can tilt it as well if you want to get an interesting Dutch angle or something like that. Let's go ahead and leave that as 0. And you can have it rotate with the object. So, you know, when you rotate the object, it rotates with the object, or you can not rotate it with the object, and then you can rotate the object in here on top of that. So now let's say this mech's going to be on the road. It's going to be about this big, right? You can put it over there. You can also zoom in, zoom out, right? So, you know, you can do that as well. Is that what you were asking, Sina, about the panorama picture in the background? So Hanny, you're asking about bringing in CAD stuff, Rhino stuff, or whatever. Hey, Falls, how's it going? Yeah, so I'm going to turn this off for now because we don't want it. And let me just turn this off this way as well. All right, so we're back to this. So the question is bringing in CAD parts, and absolutely, and I've got some CAD parts in here. So we are going to be doing some kit bashing, and I think this is a good time to go to that. So I'm going to turn this one off too. So if we are going to do, let me quick save before we do that. So now I'm just going to add some stuff to here with kit bash parts, right? So I made this gun basically 100% from scratch in ZBrush, the cannons. But for the Gatling gun, I might use some parts, and I'll show you how you can, maybe bring in CAD parts and create decent topology with them if you need to. Again, sometimes you can just load them in, and if they don't have any issues, you can just use them that way. But if you're going to deform them or change them around, add or subtract from the shape, then you actually do need to retopologize. All right, so this is going to take a little bit of time. If anybody has any other questions, ask away. And in the meantime, while this is saving, let me just cover a couple of things about me. If you guys are new to this stream or new to this specific channel, you can see my work here at Kermaco.com. So I do a lot of mechs. It's kind of what I like. Notice here that I've got a 3-barrel Gatling gun on this mech as well. So you can see, it's kind of one of my things that I really like to do. So you can see a bunch of other mechs that I've worked on. I do character work as well. You can see those here. And then all my social media is on here. So here's my Instagram, for example, if you want to go find my Instagram. And you can see that I've posted a couple of pictures of the mech we're working on right here. And this has my latest work. My website is a little bit old. I'm moving it to ArtStation, but it's going to take a while because I'm doing that while I'm doing 100 other things. But stay in, it'll be the same address. It'll be Kermaco.com, but it'll just be on ArtStation. So you can see some of my work here. The other thing also I should mention is that, so these are 2-hour sessions that I do the streaming in, and I do answer questions. But there's a lot of stuff I'm not going to cover in here. Like I'm not going to cover what I do in Substance Painter and in Keyshot and Photoshop because this is a Pixologic stream. But if you're interested in kind of seeing this process as a tutorial from start to finish, I've got this on the Gnomon Workshop, which is designing a piloted combat mech. And in here, and this is a service you subscribe to, and there's a bunch of really good tutorials on here. But you can see that this is I think it's about 9 hours of tutorials going through in ZBrush, creating this kind of spider mech. And I start in VR in medium and do some ideation, and then I bring it into ZBrush. and figure out a ideal look for it. I think this is in KeyShot where I'm doing the render. This is designing the gun in ZBrush. How to gather reference and a lot of other things like that. So if you're interested in kind of more of a tutorial base thing, and if you kind of find like you're getting lost in this stream, you might want to check this out. So again, it's on there. I've got 2 tutorials, and the way to find it is just go to thenomanworkshop.com, and then if you browse by author, by instructor, here I am right here. And IL, and then there, my name, and then here you can notice that I've got this, the Mech one, and I've also got a 3D scan retopology one. So if you guys are interested, you can look into that. So here we are, saved, and we can continue on. Okay. All right. Is there a workflow that I can model? Okay. So if I have like parts that I'm bringing in from programs like Rhino or Fusion 360 or Moai, one of those 3D CAD programs, you can retopologize them and you can get a decent kind of result from them. So here, let's see. I think I've got some here. So these are just some kit bash parts that I use all the time. So I basically create a one thing here that has all of them in the center, and then I use expose to kind of bring them out like this, and choose the ones that I want. I think this one's kind of not where it's supposed to be, but anyway, it doesn't matter. But these are all CAD parts, and if I choose, let me just choose a simple one, like let's say I choose the cylinder right here and solo it out. Now you can see that this thing is just, I mean, it's got some okay topology here on the side, but this is kind of a problem with the pole. Maybe not, it's on a flat surface, so it doesn't matter. But you can see here these little details are kind of bad topology, and they don't really work well. So you can do some work on this. For example, if I want this thing to be taller, let me go back to my regular mask. If I want this thing to be taller, you can do that, right? So now it's, this is an easy thing to fix. But if I want this to be wider, then I have to isolate that part. So this is all a bunch of parts kind of put together. It's not one piece. So I'd have to separate out the different part and see if I can do parametric work on it. So there's a little bit of stuff I can do, but not a lot, right? So here, oops. If I go over to here, you can see that it's got this nice little detail over here, but that detail does have a high cost in kind of this type of really wonky topology that these programs create when you export these things as OBJ files. So like I said, I mean, if I wanted to do something like maybe make this part longer, I can, but there are certain things I cannot do, right? So one of the things I can't do is if I press D, for example, for dynamic subdiv, you can see that it falls apart really badly in this area. So so I'd either have to get rid of that detail and recreate it, or do other work. And a lot of times when I work in commercials, on commercials and stuff, I do get CAD data of cars and robots and things like that. And what I do with those is and notice here that it's basically extending that part too. And some things work, some things don't. But with things like that, I basically have to assess whether or not it's something that can be done, and do it that way. But I definitely don't have the same level of parametric what if kind of creation capabilities in ZBrush that I do in a CAD program. But on the other hand, there's things that I can do here that CAD people dream of doing and can't. So, you got to kind of take the good with the bad and figure out what you need to do. It depends on the situation. Hopefully that answers your question. All right, so now I'm kind of doing this thing here, but I want to actually change it into something else. So what I'm going to do here is revert this to what it was before. I don't want to make those changes to it, but I'm going to use this macro that I also have, that I've used in other, I've used this thing in other programs. If I have kind of a, so these are all separate tools, so they work really well. I can copy and paste them into my scene. But sometimes my kit bash parts are not like this. So sometimes they're like this. And let me solo that out. Where there's a bunch of parts in one tool, subtool, right, like this. So I can isolate these different parts here and get them out by using this macro that I wrote. But actually, Joseph Drust helped me write it, that I use. And I'm going to make that available at some point. I just need to have a little kit bash kit to make it available with. And the way that that works is, let's say I like this part right here, so I can just go ahead and select that part. Maybe do a better selection job here. Right, and then I just use this kit bash duplicate macro that I have like here, which what it does is basically just creates a subtool and does the unify. So I have this object here, and you can see this object looks, it's really got bad geometry. So retopologizing this is going to be an adventure, but it's doable. One of the tricks that I have, and I'll try it. It's going to be hard to do this one, just because it's got these little holes over here. And it's got this, but I'll give it a try just for kicks. So one of the things that I do, and I think I've got a tutorial on this online somewhere. Maybe I should do a newer one. But basically, just go over here to polygroup. And what we want to do is we want to polygroup by normals. Let's just do that kind of default way. We get this. I already can tell this isn't going to work out well, but let me change the angle here a little bit more. And do it again. Right, that's too much. Let's go the other way. And you just have to play around with it until you get like surfaces that you want to be the same polygroup. And you might have to help it along a little bit. So here, let's try to change this down a little bit more. No, that's too much. What you want is you want fewer groups, but you want these groups to be different. So that's not working out either. Let's go a little bit more. Yeah, it's getting there. All right, so what we want to do is I want to group certain things together. So this red here is good. So let me go to polygroup, and I want to do polygroup of a polygroup island. So this one, I'm going to grab that red color, and I'm going to polygroup that red color too. So I'm basically helping this normal grouping a little bit by myself by just adding these parts that I know I want them to be part of the same surface. Okay, so there's that, and I'll do that on the bottom too. Again, I don't really have very high hopes that this is going to work, but I'm going to give it a shot just to show you the process. All right, so that works as well. So that kind of creates that area. And then these edges are the same polygroup. Okay, so I've kind of got what I want here. And now what I'm going to do is dynamesh this, but keep the polygroups. So I'm going to go to dynamesh, keep groups, and I'm going to bump up the resolution. Let's go to 2048, and let's dynamesh this. So what that's going to do is it's going to give me more evenly divided geometry, but it's also going to keep the polygroups the way they are. So let's see what that looks like when it's done, and that's not going to work out. Dynamesh doesn't work really well with holes, so that's not going to work out in this way, but I can do something else here. I can just go in and go to dynamic, or go to divide, but turn smooth off. Let's do that and see what that looks like. All right, so that basically gives me a little bit better geometry, gives me quads, even though they're kind of weird and gives me these horrible poles. It is actually better, you know, it gives me a kind of more quads than I had before. All right, so now that I have this going on, now I can try to do the ZBrush. All right, so here I'm going to detect edges. I'm going to keep the groups, and let's go for, I'm not going to put anything in the same or double, and I'll just give it a shot and run here. See how good of a result I get. and I get a decent result. It's not exactly what I want, so I'm going to go in here and double the number of polygons and try that. If I throw polygons at it, sometimes it works. So let's see what happens there. Again, the things that concern me are these three holes that are over here on each side. Okay, so that's not bad. One other thing I want to do here is maybe turn on symmetry. Let me see, X symmetry. Okay, why not? And let's give this another try. Johnny, if you want to contact me offline and let me know. My email address, by the way, is again on my. If you go to my website here, right? My email address is over here. So Johnny Boy, if you can send me an email, we can talk about that. All right. So now we've kind of got this thing going on here, and you can see if I turn polyframe off, I mean it's not great, right? But if I go ahead and do a dynamic subdiv on it, I mean I'm getting kind of a decent version of that shape, but nothing near what I had before, right? So I'm not getting these crisp edges or whatever. So what I can do now is I can go in and I can either just use this as a template and build on top of it in ZBrush from scratch. Or another thing I can also do here is I'm going to turn adaptive off. And I'm going to turn double off. And I can throw polygons at it, see if I get a better result. So here all I'm trying to do is get an all quad model. And if I throw more polygons at it, I might get what I need. So let's see if this works. Here we go. This is, it's still pretty bad. Right, so I'm going to try and do the Alt ZBrush. And let's increase the number of polygons here to, let's go to 60. Let's go to double. Do 64. Okay, and then I'm going to use the alternate ZBrush. So if you press Alt and ZBrush, it basically uses another algorithm. So if I turn polyframe off, I mean it's getting there. It's got some weird wonky stuff over here that I might need to clean up. But eventually, trying it this way, if I'm in a hurry and I just need something that's got decent topology on it, all quads or whatever, I can do that. But notice here, the holes actually aren't that bad. Maybe if I, let's do this one last time. If I even go up to 100 target polygons, so I'm just basically going to the max of number of polygons it can do here. I don't want to smooth the groups. I'm going to turn that down. Let's see what we get in this result. So again, this is going to take longer because I've got a polygon count of 100. And now I actually have something that I can work with. This actually works great, right? So now I can turn polyframe off, and this was the ticket. So here I'm getting these weird anomalies, right? Because of the CAD object had those anomalies in there. So here what I can also do is go in to deformation. And let's say polish by groups. Let's just add a little bit of polish. See if it's better. It's getting a little bit better. And then let's polish crisp edges here. So we're getting something decent. You can see here again with those three holes, I'm getting something kind of horrible. But notice that the rest of it actually is not bad. It's not as bad over here. It's not as bad with this one kind of hole over here. It actually figured that one out. And most everything else it did really decently. I think in here, I think it could use a little bit of work. But for the most part, it's not a bad retopology. And if I go to polyframe here, you can see that there's kind of where the funky stuff is happening. So if I go in here and take us all the way back to where we had before we even did this. So we have this shape, and then we'll do the ZBrush right from here. So I'm going to go here and do the ZBrush right from this point. Let's see if we get something a little bit better. All right, decent. Again, having an issue with this area, but I think maybe we can just plug those holes somehow with Boolean operation or something like that. But the rest of it is pretty decent, right? I mean, I can dynamic subdivide it. It's not bad. And maybe, you know, if I like this, I can use this as is, and I can just put another part in here to cover these holes up, right? So there's different ways of doing it. So let's say I'm going to use this part now that I've done all this work with it. So now I have it as a subtool here. I'm going to copy it like so, and then just go into the mech itself, right, and paste it. I want to paste it in whole top. Let's just make sure we're in the right place. All right, and then here it is. It's pretty small. I'll just go ahead and unify it to get it to be bigger. And then let's find a good place to put this. And you can see here, it's a lot lighter than it was before. It's good geometry, less crash prone. Good topology is always better to work with. And then let's see if we can find a good place for this part. By the way, I can also, I think a good place for it is here in the back. And remember, I can always use some of the deformations in ZBrush to do work on this. I know I see a bunch of questions coming in. If you just hold on for 1 second, I'll get back to you when I can. All right, so let's say this is something like that. Maybe turn it around 180 degrees. Oops, let me turn symmetry off. That's not good. All right, let's do that, and let's turn symmetry off here. And let's rotate this up. Oops. All right, stop rotating at 180 degrees. Again, if I wanted to do this without kind of going back and forth, it's easy enough to do. I think, oh, dynamic subdiv is on, so let's just turn that off. And that'll work a lot faster. There it is. And then let's make this smaller like this. And what I want to do here is I want this thing to be, this back radar here to fold in and out. So I just want to put this kind of on top of it, like so, to kind of hold this bottom part together. And again, you know, you're not going to see this thing as its own piece, but together with everything else, it kind of makes sense with you know what's down below here. So it basically creates a good visual appearance and adds some interesting detail to it. And also, I mean, here there's parts missing and everything like that. So we're going to be working on that in a little bit. Okay, so let me get to. All right, so. Let's see. Okay, I'm still learning how to program in ZBrush, but that's something I could accomplish in Maya. All right, well, you know, it's not that programming in ZBrush is not that different. But Johnny Boy, definitely get a hold of me. I wanna ask you some questions. Okay, so what happens? Have you tried to do Mesh before Dynameshed it? All right. Okay, so yeah, I mean, there's different ways of going about it. There's no, like, I haven't found a silver bullet for retopology, but you know, I have different ways of doing it, and also a lot of experience doing it. So sometimes certain shapes work for it, and sometimes they don't. Okay, and then right. So Sina has another question. How can you view your model when you have a lot of subtools? Merge them or one, okay. Okay, so hello, may I ask why ZBrush if polymodeling easier for hard surface and I suppose faster? I don't understand your question, I'm sorry. White, if you can repeat your question, that would be great. Okay, all right. Hello, if we imagine some long, sharp edges. Okay, so yeah, Dynamesh is, you're going to get jagged edges when you Dynamesh. That's when you really need to worry about topology. Admiral Stupid Beth, what a great name. So yeah, if you're going to do like an LCD panel or something like that, don't Dynamesh it. Dynamesh is good for when you want to sculpt on something and sculpt in detail and whatnot. But it's better to just do it with poly modeling and use ZModeler with it. And you can create some really great LCD panels and things like that in ZBrush. But if it's going to be manufactured, do it in CAD because unless you can 3D print it and you have a good 3D printer that can get you the kind of tolerances that you want, do it in ZBrush. But otherwise, make it in ZBrush, design it in ZBrush, and then take it into the CAD program and go over it in that. It's easy enough to do. But ZBrush is good with coming out with the idea. So Cloganart, hello, hi, welcome to the stream. Okay, so the other question you had is UVing, right? So let's go to that part we just created here, and let me solo it out. So this part right here. All right, so if I wanted to UV this part, the way I would do it is I would, again, I've done a lot of UVs, so I kind of have an idea how UVs work. One way I would do it for this one here, which will be pretty fast, is I'll just go into UV, again, depending on the level of UVing you need. So here I'm assuming quick and dirty UVs are fine. So in ZBrush, there's the UV Master Z plugin, and it's actually not bad for doing quick UVing. So here what I can do is I can say I want to unwrap this. It is symmetric, so I do want it with symmetry. And one other thing you can also do, it is symmetric, so I don't need to do it, but you can always mirror and weld. You can say it doesn't have UV, so I'm not going to use existing UV seams, but I am going to use polygroups, right? So this is checked. And then if I just click on unwrap, it takes a few minutes. And here we go, it's unwrapping. Looks like it's kind of chugging along here. There's a lot of kind of intricate polygroups in the insides or whatever that it's going to do. But I'll let it do its thing here. If it takes too long, I can always interrupt the poly UV master. But basically what that'll do, right, 16 of 100. This looks like it's going to take a while. I'm just going to see if I can interrupt it. Okay. So one other thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to reduce the number of polygroups. So there's a way to do that. And if you go to polygroups here, I think there's something that allows you to merge stray groups. There you go. So now if you've got like weird groups in places, this kind of merges them together. And now the unwrap will take a lot less time. So let's do it this way here. Unwrap. Okay, let's see if this goes a lot faster. Okay, so you can see here that the number is already a lot less. So let's let it do its thing. And again, manual UVing takes a long time, so waiting a few minutes for UV Master isn't that big of a deal. I don't know why this is taking so long. It shouldn't. All right, here we go. 15 of 56 or 16 of 56. And we'll just let it do its thing. And if you have any questions, now is a good time to ask. I'll take a quick tea break too. How are we doing on time? We're doing good. Right, so here we go, and we're at 39. We're almost done. And post-process 1 of 3. And of course, the reason why it's taking so long is because this thing is pretty dense. I can probably reduce the number of polygons on it. Here it is. It's done. Okay, so let's see what that looks like if I flatten this. Did it not do it? Did it have an error? We can do it this way as well. UV map. Nope, it didn't do it. I don't know why. All right, let's see here. Well, one of the things I can try and do here is, can I go lower? No, it's pretty detailed. So something like this, what I would do is I would, let's do a few things here. I'm going to go ahead and check the mesh integrity, and that looks like it's fine. Okay, that's the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do here is take a look at it. I'm actually going to try to zero mesh it one more time, and this time go with half the number of polygons. Keep groups, detect edges, smoothing groups is off, and so let's just do that one more time. And I'm going to see if I can get a little bit less geometry and get the same result, because then the UV master will go a lot faster. And I'm also going to turn symmetry off. Okay, so here we go. How did that come out? It looks like it's really kind of jumbly. Nope, that didn't work out too well. All right, so I'm going to leave it at this, and I'm going to turn off symmetry and give this one more try. But basically for something like this, I would probably try to simplify it a little bit more to get the UVs that I want. And I would do one part at a time. You know, I mean, I do have a lot of parts here, but I would usually do them one part at a time. And also, you don't need to UV everything. Like this thing over here, unless I'm weathering the edges or I'm going to paint it in Substance Painter or something like that, I can just probably apply one material to it and get away with it. And I could probably apply a material to it in KeyShot and use edge detection in KeyShot to give it kind of some edges. But again, if I have a close-up of it and I really need it to be detailed, then I probably have to do this step over here. So notice again, it's going pretty fast. Let's make sure we see whether it gives us an error or if it does it for us. Okay, post-process 3 of 3. Okay, so it did do it. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. This time we did get our UV map. And let's morph UV. And wow, it just created a really subdivided. Is that why? Let's bring it back. And is this? All right, just want to make sure it's not. So I don't know, did it really? Yeah, here we go. This is not bad. So it does have the parts for us. And also if I turn the bump down and do it, I will get that back. So there's the UVs. Not the best UVs, right? But they work okay. I mean, I've got weird angles over here. If I had symmetry on, it would have been a little bit better. But if I want to check and see how good these UVs are, I can always throw a texture map on it. Like, let's say this one. And I'll go ahead and make this bigger. And turn this off. Did I unify it? Let's try it one more time. Okay, and then let's turn these textures on. Okay, so you can see here that the textures, I mean, you can't really tell. Let's try a checkerboard. All right, so it looks okay, but you can see already here that this is a straight line and it's curved. So UVs are okay, but they're not as good as they can be. So for something like this, I'd probably take it out into Hedis UV layout or something like that and UV it in there. But, you know, I mean, it's still not bad for quick and dirty UVs. And let me throw just another texture on it here. Let's try something like, let's say this, right? And yeah, I mean, UVs are okay, they're decent. They're not the, you know, they're not handmade UVs, but in a pinch, they can do the job. I don't know why the UV space is so small on this. So let's go ahead and turn the texture off. And I'm going to try doing one other thing here. I'm going to use the I'm going to try unwrapping it one more time. Since you asked the question, this is a good thing to kind of answer. So I'm going to delete the UVs. Let's choose a 496 UV here, and let's go ahead and unwrap this one more time, since it is fully it is unified. So let's see if that gives us something better. And it's going pretty fast. It's not really. It kind of sweats a bit over here, but then it goes a lot faster. Another thing I can also do is I can combine polygroups as well. You can always go into polygroups and reduce the number of polygroups, because right now it's cutting the seams where the polygroups are. So if you reduce the number of polygroups, you get better results as well. But yeah, a lot of times I do, recently especially, if they don't really ask for very specific UVs, I'll just UV things in here. All right, post-process 1, 2, 3. I'm kind of hoping we're going to get better UVs here. All right, so it's done. Nope, it reached an error. All right, I'm just going to kind of not continue to do this. But I guess the thing to mention before, that I was mentioning before, is here. I'll create some creased edges here. I don't know why. Let's get rid of those two. Uncrease all. And the other thing I also want to do here is just show you real quick what I mean by changing the polygroup. So let me turn symmetry back on. And let me mirror and weld this thing so it is exactly symmetric. And what I was going to do here is go in and choose a polygroup, like let's say this one. Right? And take that polygroup's color and then just apply it to this polygroup right here. And this one. Do nothing for edge and polygroup. Do nothing for that. Do nothing for edge. And then for this, for polygon actions, polygroup island. So just kind of make sure that a lot of things you want to be UV'd kind of in the same island are all the same polygroup. So you just go and manually polygroup, like let's say this one right here, this one right here. So now all this is going to be one, it's going to cut one border out of it. And then the inside part, I want this to be something different, like red, right? And sometimes you have to manually do the thing, and it's kind of neat here because you can do, they added fill, which was really something I've been wanting for a long time. I think in 2016 they added, so here, like say I want to do this area, I just go to fill, and do that, and just does that area. It does the automatic filling for me, and that's kind of a neat thing that they just added. So, you can help it along that way by just grouping the different parts and UVing them that way. And again, the number of polygons here is a lot. I would probably try to reduce this manually if I could, just to not have as many polygons and the UV goes faster. But again, the areas of concern are around these holes. And that's the one feature I would close up or get rid of just to not have this problem. Okay. Yeah, I would do work on copy. I would definitely work on copy here, work on clone. So the question is, should I be working on the actual PC or work on a clone? And definitely work on a clone, because if anything happens, you can always go back to your initial piece, right? So that's a good idea to always work on clone when you're doing UVs. All right, so here I'm just going to go back to this thing, and I'm going to leave it as a CAD object. I don't care. In where I've got it, I don't really care about it being where it is over here. All right, so that's done. So I think we're getting, we're at 8:44. I've got 15 more minutes of work to do. I'll stay a little bit longer today too. But I just wanted to say that what I'm going to do next here is just go in and put kit bash parts on here. A couple other things I did kind of towards the end of last time. I'll go ahead and bring those things back up. Like I did this piece right here, which basically is kind of a cover that goes on top of the mech, just to, you can stick stuff on it, or you can kind of brace yourself. If you fall or whatever, you can kind of hook your leg up onto it. So that's one idea I had. And then I had another version of that. Let me turn polyframe off. You can see these better. Just to kind of create this type of shape, but I haven't decided if I want to keep these yet or not. But yeah, those are just kind of some possibilities of things that I was trying out. I think it's towards the end of one of the streams that I did. Okay, so I will probably continue to work on this Gatling gun by adding kit bash parts to it, and also work on the legs and the top of the mech, just to get a little bit of detail on this top part. I don't want to get it too detailed, because I want to leave some areas for the eyes to rest. The guns are really detailed. This radar is, so I want to kind of leave some areas where things are not as detailed as they are on some of the other parts. Okay, so let me jump back into the Gatling gun here and continue modeling that. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and hide all these other parts. Notice here that doing a little bit of hygiene and cleanup is good, because you can get rid of things very easily here and get back to the area of focus, which is going to be this gun right here. All right, so we built these tri-tubes over here, which is looking good. So now let's kind of look at what we can do with this round barrel. So this is actually in the center of this, but it's looking off if I look at it from the side. And if I move it down this way, then it doesn't look right from the end. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go with this. And I'm going to duplicate that part and make a thicker version of it. Like so. And that kind of makes it look a little bit better, both from the side and from the front. Okay, so basically that's that. And then what I want is I want this to basically be coming out of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create yet a third piece. And make that smaller. Bring it over this way. Maybe a little bit bigger than that, like so. And this is going to be subtractive. So here I'm just going to go ahead and divide this into split to parts. Okay, so this one's going to be the start of a one on the outside. Let's see, it's this one. It's going to be the start of a Boolean. And let's go ahead and start another one after it. And then this one's going to be subtractive, and this one's going to be additive. And let's turn live Boolean on. Let's see if we're getting what we want. No. Okay, so that one's subtractive, which is kind of what we want, but this one's additive. There's that. And I want this to be on top, like so. This is definitely subtractive, and this is additive. This is exactly what I want. So I want this kind of to be coming out of that outer barrel, and that outer barrel does not need to be that thick. So I'm going to bring that in. Actually, this is the one I need to bring in. So put that in the middle. And so I just want it to have a little bit of a lip over here. Right, so that basically does what I needed to do. And again, I can do this via Booleans or another method, but this is kind of doing what I want. So that kind of indicates to me that this piece is inside and can rotate inside of this other piece. Right, so now to bring in some parts for the back of the gun, let's go over here and look at these kit bash kits. And these kit bash kits, I buy them on ArtStation or Gumroad. They're really inexpensive. And I'm building a library that I can call from when I need to. Let's see, is anything here looking like a good part that I can use? I like this one. So here I'll just go ahead and select it. Oh, this one's the one where it's all different pieces. So let me go to, is it this one? Yeah. Right, so I've got one bit here that has a bunch of, is it this one? It is this one. No, this is the, where are you? Ah, here we go. So here I've got this nest of different kit bash parts, and here's the one that we worked on before. I'm just going to go ahead and go to this one right here, which is what we were looking at. So I kind of like this. I think this will work right here. So I'm going to select it and use my little macro, kit bash duplicate, copy it, go to the Gatling gun, and paste it in here. Let's unify this one more time in this scene, right? So there's the part, and what I want to do is make this smaller. And rotate it this way. So you can see here that I am just seeing if this will work as some sort of a base part on it. And it kind of does. So that looks good. So this way this thing can rotate in this direction. Okay, so that's good there. So let's go ahead and find some other parts. Now there are certain things in these parts that I don't like. Like for example, maybe this detail over here doesn't work for it. But it's going to be pretty small, and I'm not really going to care about it that much. So that's okay. And if I do want to get rid of it, again, these are all janky geometry parts. So here, I'll turn on, not transparency, but polyframe. You can see they do have this kind of CAD-like, imported from CAD geometry. And, it's easy enough to fix, I guess. I can either quickly recreate the part or get rid of certain things. So like getting rid of this feature over here is going to be really, really difficult for me to do. So I'll just either put a part on top of it or, like I said, remodel it or something like that. But here in this case, it's going to be pretty small. So it's really not going to matter. All right, so let's go ahead and find some other kit bash parts. So here's this kit again. I don't need this one anymore. I can delete it. Right, let's look at this kit, and I'm going to solo these out. I can see them better. So I've got some cables here, and let's look through here. Is there something that looks like a good barrel for a Gatling gun, or a kind of a base? So there's a lot of parts. Usually, what I do is I just go through and pick the ones I want, but in this case, I haven't done that yet. So let's look at these ones. Actually, I'll go to that one other kit that I have, this one, where we were going to use this part right here. So I'm going to copy this part. And go to the Gatling gun again. And paste. This is something that I need to find a faster kind of method to do, is if I can bring these pieces in a lot faster, that would be great. Okay, where's everybody? All right, one more. There it is. So let's move this to the center of the world. It's always good to model things in the center of the world because you know where they are, where things are. And let's bring this here. So I'm going to use this part as kind of the let's put this in the center again. And I want to rotate this thing this way. Here we go. And I want this to be kind of the base of the Gatling gun. So here I can make some, again, these are CAD parts, but I can make some changes to them. And again, the things I want to do are easy to recreate, but I just want to show how you can do that with a kit bash part. So put that in this way. And then there's certain parts of this that I don't need, so I'll just go here and go to delete island, and I don't need this part right here. So whatever I click on here, I'm just basically deleting islands that I don't want. So there's that. The edge action here, I'm going to say do nothing. It's on bevel, so now I can just go ahead and do this. I don't need these bolts, so I'm just deleting the things I don't need. Let me turn double on so I can see inside. All right, these are all stuff I don't need. Right? I kind of like this little handle thingy. I'm going to leave it there. And so, so yeah, you can see here that this was a canister that I'm going to also use for other things, but it seems to serve this purpose really well. And this kit bash part actually does do its work well. So let's see what that looks like. Now the problem is, again, if I had D for dynamic subdiv, sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't. So you can see here what happened to this back part, but this part's not going to be seen, so I don't care. And I do get a good cylindrical part, and I kind of like the lip over here that it's got. So we're going to go ahead and keep this the way it is, like so. So that basically is this part of the gun. All right, so let's go ahead and pick another kit bash part. Oops, my light went off over there. Pardon me for just 1 second. I think my battery is just running out exactly at around 2 hours. So that's kind of a good way to gauge where I'm at. Just give me 1 second. All right, so that's a little bit better. Okay, and all right, so let's go ahead and find some other kit bash parts. So let's go back to this one right here, F, and see if there's anything over here that would work. So again, I'm looking for different parts, and I think this is a radar, but the back of it could work, could be interesting. What other ones would work for a Gatling gun? Let's try this one. Oops, I don't want to save. How about this one right here? So let's pick that guy, and let's turn this off. Copy. Go back to our thing here and paste. Obviously it's too big, but we can make it smaller. And let's see what happens if we put this over here this way. All right, let's turn it around. Okay, that's working. All right, so now I'm just basically combining this other part with what I had to create something new, and I want to make this bigger this way. And you can see here that these bars kind of add more visual interest, and this is kind of looking like it's a real thing. But if I want to, for example, elongate certain parts, I'm not going to be able to. Let's see if this works. Well, in this case, actually it's working well with these cat parts. Sometimes they don't. So that looks okay. Now I'm liking how that's looking. Cool, so that's one more part added. And let's add a few more. Let's see. Just looking to see what part will work on this. Let's try this guy right here. All right, so turn expose off. And I'm going to just do the copy and paste from here. Copy, go to my Gatling gun again. And let's paste that part in. Unify. Right, it's again gigantic. Let's make it smaller. And let's see if this part works. It works okay. So here I like the size of it, the sides of it, but I want it to be wider. And again, it's a CAD part, so I can use this, which I've done in previous videos, but the extender will make this bigger. And even though it is a CAD part, it works really good for it. So let's say I want this to be about this thick, right? So that worked, and I can move this back. I can move maybe all the way to here, like so. And let's accept that. Actually, before I do that, let me make sure I've got some subdivisions in here too. So that basically just makes it wider, but if I want some subdivisions, that's not it. Where is it? It's one of the corner cones. I think it is, I want to say this one. Nope, that's symmetry. Apply creasing. There's one of these guys is the one that adds subdivision levels. Inflate, no. Oh, that's kind of neat too. So I'll inflate it a little bit. But I want to add some subdivision levels. Is it this one? X size and extender. But one of these guys over here, I think, is it this one? X resolution, yep. Yeah, I just want to add a few more edge loops here. So I just added 2 more. So now I basically have this shape. Let me just polygroup it as one polygroup. And there it is. Okay, so I just basically added this shape to my model, kind of completely different, you know, than what it looked like before. And I can try and extend it this way as well. It's not going to be as easy, but I'm going to try it. So, but I'm going to use move the center down somewhere where it is feasible, like maybe over here. And let's see if this works. All right, so I'm going to solo this out so I can see it. I don't need that lip, so I'm going to get rid of that. Where was it? It was this one? No. Maybe this one here. Yep. So can I go inwards? I can. Nice. All right, so I can go inwards for this one. Notice here that it's kind of falling apart in this area, so I have to move that center. And the cool thing is I can do that live. So maybe that works better like that. Let's see, is it good on the sides? Is it good on the back? All right, and it's asymmetrical, which I kind of like. But I might not want that inside thing to happen. Just keep it normal. This looks good like that. Oops. Yeah, this works. So let's go off solo. There it is. And I'm going to make this whole thing a little bit smaller. Let's go ahead and accept this. All right. And I want this thing to be on the bottom, so I'm going to rotate the whole thing around. There we go. All right, so now I've combined a bunch of different subtool or different kit bash parts, trying some other experiments here. I kind of like this thing on the back, so I'm going to try and see if I can do this to it. And then here on this one of the things I like to do is just polygroup these automatically. I know we're over the time limit, but I'm going to do a little bit more work here. Auto group this. Okay, so this whole back piece is one piece, which kind of sucks because I kind of wanted to keep parts of this but not the whole thing. All right, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and Q1 mask polygroup island. I'm going to mask this guy and then invert the mask, and I'm just going to resize this one back part. Right, see what that looks like. And that's looking pretty good. So I'm happy with this as kind of the base of the Gatling gun. And I'll just basically keep adding different parts to it until I get what I want. Notice here that there's a little bit of design language clash between, again, that area over here and this area over here. But I'll have to cover this up with something, and then it'll be fine. And then here I'll also cover parts of this up as well. To get some sort of a decent looking shape. But again, it's coming together really nicely, and I just basically will continue this process. Okay, so all right, we've got Buona Notte from Salvador. Hey, Brazil, congratulations. Okay, thank you, Lima, I guess. So. Okay, another stream out of the way. If anybody has any questions, again, good time to ask. And then we will kind of call it a night. Just to remind everybody again is, so let's kind of bring everything back just to kind of get a progress of where we are. So today we worked a lot on this Gatling gun over here, and we also did some work on the top. So let's just go ahead and bring up, we don't need this. I made a rear hatch, which you can see over here on the back. Right, so there's that, which was all done in ZModeler, and these kind of pillowy things were done with using the dynamics features. We're going to do more of that, so stay tuned for that, and the hips and the legs. So here's that entire mech. The Gatling gun looks like the size is good. Now we just have to figure out where to put it. I'm thinking maybe have a couple down here somewhere. So we'll do the placement of those in a little bit. Okay, so let me do one other thing here. All right, so this is kind of where we are at right now. I'll be doing a lot more work off screen, kind of similar to what I did with the Gatling gun, just to create some other parts to put around the mech. And then next time, I think the modeling will be done, so we can get on with painting the different parts and starting to kind of think about putting this thing in a composition. Okay, so it looks like there are no questions. So I bid you all a good night, day, whatever time of day it is where you are. Still be careful out there. Things are still kind of we're not out of the woods, but I got my vaccine, so I kind of feel like I'm kind of close to being back to normal, and hopefully next few streams that I do will be more and more there. So good night again. And just to remind everybody, if you like this, definitely like the video on whatever service it is. Subscribe to the Pixologic channels if you want to continue to watch this. A lot of different artists do different style things. I do more mechs and hard surface type of stuff, and there are artists that do all sorts of different models for you, so you can watch those. Leave a comment. Always a good idea to kind of leave a comment if you like what you see. And again, if I didn't answer your questions or you're watching this after the fact, you can always ask a question in the comments and somebody will get back to you. So with that, goodbye and see you in a couple of Fridays. Last question here from Laura. Do I stream outside of Pixologic or Twitch? I don't yet, but I plan to at some point. So stay tuned for that. I mostly do stream for Pixologic because that's kind of most of what I have time for now. But if I can find a way to monetarily make it worth my while, I will do it on Twitch or some other stream service. But right now, this is the only amount of time that I have that I can contribute to something that is not paying me immediately. Again, I can always use these mechs in my portfolio, and I will be sitting around doing this stuff anyway. So the Pixologic stream is kind of the one thing that I do, kind of my guilty pleasure that I do. But I'll stream on other services. Laura, if you have any ideas and you want to talk to me about them, you can always email me, right? And again, that email address is, here, let me turn this off. That email address is on my webpage over here. So just go to my webpage, Kermaco.com, and click on the envelope. And you can send me an email if you're interested. I would love to hear back from anybody in person. If you want to contact me, let me know. Again, I only have a limited amount of time, but I do make time to kind of connect with people. All right. So good night, and we will see you in a couple of Fridays.